folks, we're very pleased to be able to instigate our Slaughter Awards. Now, the Americans have these things called the Rondo Awards, which are named after Rondo Hatton, who was a famous soldier, sort of like 40s horror actor. And we thought, well, you know what, they never give us any awards anyway, because we're British. So let's do our own, which might be fun, and just give them to people we feel really deserve to get these kind of awards. So for the first time we're giving them out, we've come up with 5 to give away. For people we feel deserve Lifetime Achievement Awards, and they're beautiful. Can't really see them, but they're in the likeness of Todd Slaughter, who played Sweeney Todd. One of my favourite actors, and you know, this is great. And we've got some really nice. We've chosen some people we feel really deserve to win these kind of awards. So, first of all, it's my great pleasure to give away the first ever Slaughter Award to a very good friend of mine, Alan Frank. Now, Alan Frank, he's a legend for people who, you know, any one of us, I'm sure, has heard of him. And his books on horror were really, really seminal in our childhood, and certainly was in mine. And I was delighted to meet Alan many years ago at, he signed into some sort of, we went to a screening, and I noticed his name, and I said, you know, to the PR girl on the door, can you introduce me to Alan, because I love his books, and you know, I'd like to meet him. I found him to be a delightful man, and very witty, very, you know, very funny, and I still love his writing. And he wrote for us in the early days of DarkFest, which was a great pleasure for me. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to give him this award, because, you know, a Lifetime Achievement Award for anybody who's written about horror in the UK, he's got to be up there, definitely. And so I'd like to present this award to Alan Frank.
Good evening, and thank you for the applause. Never got that when I was an extra. I grew up in East Africa. I never saw horror. We had very serious censorship. Indeed, it was worse than England. England had H for horrific, would you believe, at one stage, including all people Abbott and Costello, I think, monsters, which is a little unfortunate. Once I came here, I came as a medical student. And thanks to Leslie Harrigan, who had 2 splendid cinemas in Cambridge. I don't remember much of my lectures as a medical student, but I remember every film I saw at Cambridge. I caught up with all the great horrors, and a great pleasure it was too. The only horror film, in fact, wasn't a horror film, it was a monster movie I saw before I came to England, was King Kong on a 16mm projector in the middle of the Congo. They're showing outside. It seemed perfectly reasonable, there were apes and trees anyhow. And what I did, once I caught up with films in Cambridge, I realized horror films were really, really something special. And I kind of overdosed on them, I have to say. I mean, when I became film extra, one of the joys I had was being a zombie. When you think about that, that's not really much of a tribute to my education. But I also got to meet some real greats. Peter Cushing. Peter Cushing used to stay, it was wonderful, he stayed at Grounds Hotel. And we would have tea with people who wanted to follow Baron Frankenstein. He would then put on one white glove, and you could see people thinking, oh, here comes the knife. He was a chain smoker, he didn't want yellow fingernails. Christopher Lee, another great character. He was sent by his wife to make tea, and Count Dracula told him to make tea for a guest. That's very good. Vincent Price, another splendid man, who in fact married a woman he incinerated under a hairdryer. It says a lot for horror movies. And John Carradine, who explained the art of the film, he said, I had to keep on making movies. My kids were costing me a fortune. And I'm just very grateful for this. I like the thought that I've introduced people to horror movies. I mean, they're now every day on the television, every week at the cinema. But they're not the great ones. They're not Peter, they're not Chris, they're not Vincent, they're not Carradine. They're usually disemboweling people. And while I watch my fellow critics going, I realise why I'm sitting, having been an extra. The crew is standing watching something disemboweled and wondering where the tea wagon is coming. Anyway, thank you very, very much. I do appreciate this award. I shall try to keep the spread of horror films going forever.
Okay, so for our second award, I would like, now these awards were created with the help of, particular help of Eric McNaughton, who's sitting over there. And Eric is the publisher, editor of We Belong Dead, which is a great magazine. And the British horror soft presses, we all help each other out when we can. And you know, in this instance, Eric was the one who actually managed to get the awards sculpted, and they are beautiful sculpts. So they do look very much like Todd Slaughter. And so I'd like to invite Eric to give the second award away, because I think I don't want to hog the spotlight here. And I'm sure.
Well, when you say they look like Todd Slaughter, but we've already had one complaint in France. It looks nothing like Todd Slaughter, but I think it does. And I would like to mention the sculptors by a very talented sculptor called Steve Thompson, who did the sculpts. I'm very grateful to him. And just to say a little bit about the background to this, I mean, it was a group effort. Alan, of course, was involved. Peter Fuller, who's there, Stephen Jacobs, Dave Swift, quite a few people were involved. And also, I particularly wanted to make a mention of the late Richard Gladman, because many, many years ago, myself and Rick were talking about this, that we needed some kind of alternative to the Rondos, which obviously is an American award, and we never win any American awards. But I was saying to Alan the other week, the problem with us launching the Slaughters, it's just another award that neither of us can win, sadly. But the next award is to someone who I think is an inspiration for a lot of people who grew up in the 70s. He always says, I describe him as the man in the street. I never describe him as the man in the street, but he is a man. He's the only man I know who has better hats than me. Put your hat on, Mr. Skin, please. For those of us growing up in the 70s, you know, we were very influenced by Monster Mag and by the House of Hammer magazine. And so it's a great pleasure to be able to present this award, if Alan finds it. I think we have an award for you, I don't know. To Des Skin. So Des, if you'd like to come up. Des, you have a maximum of 5 minutes to talk. Just let you know.
Nobody told me I was going to talk. I mean, you know, I'm just a wallflower. I can never think of anything to say. So, have you really spelled my name wrong? No. You buggers. Right, good. Well, brilliant. Great. Oh, that's cute. The little touch of red on the razor blade there. That's fabulous. I have a lot of respect for these guys who are publishing today, because I produced horror magazines in the 70s, and I have to say it was far easier back then. Gosh, this is very serious, isn't it? You used to just, if you had an idea, and you had the guts to put a little bit of money into it, you'd just throw it out there, and it would appear in station newsagents at the seaside. And if it was a good idea, you wouldn't get too many back. And those you did get back, you would then ship off to Australia so that they'd get to see it about 3 or 4 months later, so you pretty well sell all of them. And that was when I was doing my thing with Starburst and Doctor Who and Hammer and Monster Mag and all the rest. But I couldn't do what these guys are doing now, so it's all well and good them presenting Lifetime Achievement Awards. But I think they're the ones who deserve the round of applause. So, for the people keeping it alive today. I did this film festival in Hailsham, centre of the universe there, and I was very flattered because they came up with a Des Skin Award, but I could never win it, so it's great that I've won this one. Thank you, everybody who voted for me.
Right, my turn to present another award now to another good friend of mine. You know, I think this is a writer friend, publisher friend, who, you know, I think this award is well deserved. And this award goes to Dennis Mickle, who is one of our greatest writers, and he, you know, those of you who brought up on Hammer will know that he's an expert on Hammer films. Over the years, Dennis has research, you know, he's one of those writers who researches exhaustively, and he certainly doesn't make fools lightly when it, you know, doesn't suffer fools lightly when it comes to editing stuff, as I know when I've sent him things. But he is one of those guys who was right in the forefront of reporting on Hammer. So, for example, you know, we all love Hammer films, but he was actually there, and the stuff that he did right back at the beginning really paved the way for everything else that's ever been written on Hammer. You know, so whereas people such as Jonathan Rigby and Marcus Hearn have written about Hammer, they've really written based on what Dennis researched in the first place. And from my point of view, he's also doubly worthy of winning this award because he is particularly interested in Todd Slaughter, and for many, many years he's been preparing a book on Todd Slaughter, which one day I hope we will see. When I last went down to see him, he showed me he had this massive, great folder of information about Todd Slaughter that he's amassed over the years, including all of Todd Slaughter's bankruptcy reports and things like that. And he said to me, "I've got a bit of wood here from Todd Slaughter's outdoor toilet." And I said, "Really?" So I had to be impressed by that. So winning a Todd Slaughter award, winning a Slaughter award will be a big, big thing for Dennis. And I really think he deserves it, because I think he's one of our best genre journalists, and you know, as I say, he's a good friend, and we think he's definitely worthy of this Lifetime Achievement Award. Now, sadly, Dennis has not been in good health of late. He's recovering, but he had a bad attack of pneumonia, and he's recovering from that. So to accept this award on his behalf, I would like to invite Jane Mickle, his wife, down to the seat. Have we spelled his name right? Yes.
There's the first with Dark Side.
I know. Satire, we love that. Thank you.
It's such a shame that he didn't think he is.
He'd love to come, wouldn't he? Yeah.
He would have loved to come. And thank you very much for the award. I'm sure it was good.
Thank you. Now, let's see, the next one. Now, the next one is to, we have this thing, right, where these awards were kind of devised when we have these sort of events we go to where we call ourselves the Gentlemen of Horror, although most of us probably not gentlemen. We go up for these, curry nights and curry and drink nights, and our little committee of people who sort of plan these things out, we're all good friends. So Eric's involved in it, and Stephen Jacobs, and Peter Fuller, Dave Swift, and Graham Humphreys, and Kevin, my designer friend. So, we kind of discuss these things. Now, this is how the Slaughters came about. We decided we'd be great to do this thing, because it'd be nice for the British genre, just give us give us something that we could do every year at these events, which makes it a little bit of extra fun. And when we were planning these first awards, we thought, in future we hope to put something in the magazine, in both our magazines, and online, etc., where we can actually get people to vote for these things. So they say, we think this is the best film or the best TV show or something, and we can do that. That would be fine. So hopefully that will be for the future. But for these first lot of awards, we decided what we would do is we would nominate people we felt were deserving of it. And the next person we're going to give the award to is, in fact, ironically, one of our Gentlemen of Horror, but he doesn't know about this award, but it is our good friend, Graham Humphreys. I don't know. What is a shame was Rick Melton was going to give me his award and could probably go, Eli, you bastard. Graham, congratulations. Thank you.
Yay!
Actually, Rick told me earlier on as he was leaving that he was going to be doing a little speech. So he probably would talk about. Anyway, it was a surprise, and it's very humbling anyway, though. I've been doing my work for 38 years now, and I still enjoy what I do. I'm probably one of the luckiest people in the world to make a living out of something that I enjoy doing. And it's only over the last 10 years or so I've been going to events and meeting people, speaking to people, and actually understanding that the work I do has been seen and absorbed, should we say, by people who tell me that your work inspired me to do what I do now. It's like filmmakers, writers, whatever. But it is extremely humbling. You don't set out to do these things without. I don't know. It's odd. It's a mysterious thing that if you're an illustrator, you work in isolation. You don't have instant feedback, and but now it's great. This is fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. And finally, we've got, sadly, the last Slaughter Award is a little bit sad in some respects, because we decided to give this final Slaughter Award to Barbara Shelley, who is one of the great Hammer actresses. We love her, and her performances in some of the classic Hammers like Quentin and the Pit and Dracula, Prince of Darkness. These are great, and she is definitely one of the most popular and acclaimed of all Hammer actresses. And we wanted her to come along to the award ceremony, but sadly she's not really. I guess she's in her early 90s now, and she's just not able to do that. But she was very, very pleased to accept the award as our first sort of, one of the first Slaughters. And so what she did, basically, she sent us this message, if we were like the Oscars, we would have a bit more money to project it on the screen. So yeah, we were thinking about it, weren't we? But so basically, she was very pleased to accept the award, and she said, now that I'm retired because of ill health, this award makes me feel as if I'm back in the business again. This is one of the reasons why I would like to thank the Dark Side for presenting me with it, and to Daryl. Now this was Daryl Buxton, who was our go-between between Barbara and etc. For coming so far to London, because Daryl travelled from Derby, I think, to give it to me. So thank you, Dark Side, for reminding me of the career I enjoyed for over 30 years and making me feel that I did achieve something. I didn't always think I was achieving what I could, so this award has given me a bright set of new ideas, and for this I thank you. So that was her message. So I hope you enjoyed our Slaughter Awards, and next year we'll do the same again, and hopefully get some people actually here in person as well. So that will be good. So thank you, and we'll move on to our next production.